Coruscant, the planet completely covered by city. This was a really fun project to work on here. Trying to make something that's completely covered in buildings from orbit, but have that not look like the Death Star.
Coruscant. The entire planet is one big city.
Even though, let's say, elaborate map paintings are on screen for only 5 seconds or less, each element in there has to have a reason for being and a reason for why it looks the way it is. The 3 main environments that we were designing were the planet of Naboo, which is the Queen's planet, Tatooine, and Coruscant. And the main problem for these 3 worlds was George wanted to make sure that when we're cutting back and forth, we realized very quickly that we're in a different environment. In addition to that, each planet had to look very different in that, we were on, let's say on Coruscant, we were on one part of the city planet, and then in another scene, we're in another part. And so even on a sort of global planetary scale, we need elements that can distinguish certain parts of the city from another. And so those were all really important elements. And some of the issues that we solved were, trying to design buildings that can convey the monumental scales that George was looking for. Yet we're distinct enough so that when we cut back to, say, the Jedi Temple, it looked very distinct. Coruscant itself was a planet of city. It's kind of Manhattan on a global scale. It was a carpet of buildings, thousands of feet tall, miles tall. So that contrasted it with Naboo, which was more of a rural society where you have sort of Italian villa type architecture. Things are a little more palatial. You have a lot of fauna and so forth, waterfall and animal life.
This is the first time we come to Coruscant. I was never able to do it before. I did it sort of in little bits and pieces, but I was never able to actually show the real city because it would have been too costly and too difficult. When you're making a movie where the central action is happening on some capital planet, but you never get to go there, you only hear about it, it's not a fun way to tell a story. But this way I could go right into the middle of it and see this whole aspect of the Republic, which is very crucial to the whole story because that's what it's about, is the Emperor coming to take over and how did a democracy turn into a dictatorship. One of our main characters, Anakin, is a little boy from Tatooine who has never been off-world, so to speak. And so I really wanted to tell this particular scene from the point of view of Anakin about the wonder of being in this amazing environment with all these very important people that he doesn't really understand what they're talking about or what's going on. And his only friend really is Padme. So he's using her as his anchor. There's conversations going on that are sort of above his head that we don't really know what they're talking about. A very elaborate environment, very different from Tatooine. And I wanted to really get the wonder of the Republic and the government and the giant city from Anakin's point of view, because I thought that would be the most interesting way to reveal this particular environment, which is, I guess in the end, probably one of the more glorious and impossible to do if you don't have digital technology. We also decided to add on, before we had this scene where we got to see a little bit of the planet in the taxi, and in an effort to shorten the movie, we pulled it out, and now I put it back in again, because it does give a chance to see a little bit of the environment, a little bit of the city a planet that is a complete city, and show it off a little bit, wonder of it all.
The traffic that you're seeing out there is from our stock library of strings of traffic.
The Jedi Palace shot, the big establishing shot, was done shooting some models of the actual towers, and then the rest was done as a digital matte painting. So they photographed the set, and then George decided later that the windows that they built with blue screen behind them were too high. So we ended up lowering the windows. That meant tracing every character who's against a window, rotoscoping them, and cutting that section out. George also wanted to make this look as real as possible in terms of photography, so we actually overexposed the background as if you're exposing for the interior. And we have lots and lots of flying vehicles outside, so we tried to create as many elements of those as possible. And each one we had to adjust the level of focus behind there, the depth of field, to relate to real-life things.
Scott, tell them about the light blooming around the characters.
Well, that was the other thing with the overexposure. We wanted to get a light wrap effect around them. So we done some photographic tests, and tried to reproduce the look there. So the light actually wraps around and creates that effect as if they're in front of a real bright background.
To me, that's the subtlety in the shots that just makes it really real.
So here we're back inside the Jedi Palace, and once again trying to keep the same look and same tone, trying to do the color balance on all the foreground characters and make sure that the digital matte painting matched into all of that, created the same look. We also had to pay attention to which direction the camera was shooting to match the lighting and the sun in its position as well.
This is one of our very first matte paintings of Coruscant from Yusei, and it really is spectacular. I mean, it just shows the city in such exquisite detail.
So a lot of times we rendered quite a range of different ships flying in the background. And you can also see that we have the head and tail lights and engine lights on most of the ships. And so those were added in as well. So we would make up these long loops of ships flying and add those into the specific scenes as required.
As a little homage to Blade Runner, there's 2 Blade Runner spinners in the traffic stream here, but they ended up being pretty small. We didn't want them to show up too clearly. You can just barely see them. Near the beginning of Blade Runner, there was a shot where we're approaching the big police station building, and there's a Millennium Falcon that was turned into a building and placed in the skyline. So there was a Star Wars homage in Blade Runner, and so we decided to return the compliment.